Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to December and the first show in December for Urshel Speaks. So glad to be able to spend a few minutes with you. Not going to chew up a whole bunch of time today, but I wanted to share a couple of things that's been going on in my head and some things that I think should impact your brain a little bit in a way that makes life a little bit better. So that's what we're all about, being the right man at the right time, saying the right words because we're here to change the world. Why not? Why not do something amazing? Why not do things in a way that we leave our stamp and our imprint on the world? So December is one of my favorite months. It's in the top 12 of my favorite months of the months that exist. And because there's a holiday that usually revolved around the best food in the world in my life growing up, and Christmas and time with my family. But lots for me personally, lots and lots and lots and lots of birthdays. My brother, my wife, my sister. So many great birthdays. And today specifically, one of my good friends all the way back from high school. You need to check her out on her social media. You need to check her out. Especially, she is one of the best I know when it comes to fitness, injury recovery. She works with a lot of people who have been injured, people dealing with major injuries, a lot of people that are older. If you have parents that have dealt with strokes, all sorts of things. Dr. Candace Bordelon, you need to check her out. It's her birthday today as well. But beyond that, she is one of the best when it comes to working as a trainer with people who really, really, really need help, really need to make some great recovery and do some great things with their body. Dr. Candace Bordelon will get you taken care of. So if you need your parents, somebody, anybody, if you need to get connected with her, just send me a comment or type it in there. She'll probably be listening. We'll get you connected up with her. She can help you with nutrition, diet, but most importantly, getting that body back moving the way that it should, helping you get rid of that pain that you're having so that you can live life to its fullest. So all through the month, we'll be talking about the amazing birthdays that come in my life in December. And that's such a great setup because mine comes in January. So it's kind of like a prelude to a real party celebration. So today, I wanted to talk about a book that I've been reading. And I've mentioned to you this year, I've read more books this year. I think read and listened to. I finally gave in. I gave in to doing audiobooks. In my mind, I felt like I was losing some purity by not picking up that book and turning the pages, and like a little bit of cheating. Plus, it's easy to get distracted when you listen to them in the car. But I've made it a part of my morning walks with the dogs and everything else. And it's allowed me not only to read more books, but some of the books that I really want to get the full impact from, it's allowed me to read them and listen to them over and over and over again and really let the impact layer in my heart, in my mind, and really impact the most important thing. And what I believe is the hardest work that any of us have to do. And I've heard this several times, and even one of the books that I've read or listened to at least 20 times this year talks about the hardest work that we will ever do as humans, and especially as the type of humans that listen to this show, ones that want to change the world and have a great impact. The hardest work that we'll ever do is think. It's not driving the hammer with the hail. It's not driving the nail with the hammer. It's not any of the physical things that we do. The hardest work that we'll ever do in the path to greatness is thinking. It's the most challenging, sustained thinking that moves us along a path of greatness is the hardest work that any of us will ever do. There are so many other ways to be distracted, so many other ways. Did you watch The Social Dilemma, where they've already decided how we're going to think, what we're going to think, and their driving behavior? It's easy to do. It's easy to drive the behavior of other people if they're lazy in this area of thinking. So I read this book called The Magic. It's an old book. It's called The Magic of Thinking Big. and you may have heard of it. I think a lot of thinking books. It's one of those books that other books I think have been, have been pulled from. People who have written since then have taken a lot of great thoughts out of this book, and there are some congruencies and similarities to how to win friends and influence people. And one of the things that there's just three things that I wanted to discuss very quickly as it pertains to this magic of thinking big, because I think that that's one of the biggest challenges that we face today. How many people do we have on a day-to-day basis? How many people do you encounter daily? How many people are in that small circle, that those 5 people that you spend the most time with, who are an indicator of what your life is? How many of those people are big thinkers? How many of them are thinking epic thoughts? We started our company, Epic Optimized, because of 2 things. We wanted to work with entrepreneurs and businesses who have great, epic, world-dominating ideas. And we want to help them optimize their strategies and their thinking and their processes so that their epic idea can not only be epic, but it can be optimized today. And the reason why we use that word optimize is because when we get it where it needs to be today, the best that it can be, the most efficient, the most profitable, having the most impact, that's great for today, and it's not good enough for tomorrow or next month. So that there's always more that we can do to improve, to streamline, to become more efficient. And that doesn't come without thinking. It can come with just, you can just work, you can do the work, you can show up every day, you can punch in, you can punch out. But without thinking in an epic way, without thinking great, the magic of thinking great. And so I just want to give you a few quick takeaways from this book to encourage you to go read it. And a good friend of mine, Patrick, he told me, man, you need to post these books that you're reading and just say, hey, here's what I'm reading. Find any value in it, go check these out. So we'll do that. But I like talking about some of these things that I'm gleaning out of these, because I want to encourage you and not tell you what to think, that, but challenge you to think, and challenge me and you to think better, more consistently, to think great thoughts, and then to take action, because thinking alone won't do it. So a couple of quick takeaways out of this book. There's a lot of what you would expect from a book that says the magic of thinking great, right? So there's a lot of things that, aren't shocking in the way the book comes out. But one of the first things that really struck me is he says, be human in your thinking. And just reading that initially, sometimes when I see a title or a chapter title, I like to pre-think and I like to jump ahead of the text and kind of guess and figure out what he means. And so as soon as I read that, I started thinking, because I've been talking about that, and some of my friends talk about that, being a better human. I have some friends that hashtag that, be better humans, right? And so as I looked at that and as I started to read, one of the powers of thinking better, and it seems like an external exercise. It seems like because I'm going to be a better human, I'm going to be more generous in my conversation. Meaning what? I'm gonna listen more to what other people have to say, not just the words of what they have to say, but their thoughts, their feelings, what drives them, what motivates them. And I'm going to be generous in conversation. That can be an issue for me, because I have that disease, male pattern lecturing, and the ability to turn a 2-minute conversation into a 45-minute dissertation, right? And so for people like me, sometimes it's important to stop and really listen, pay attention, being generous in conversation, in relationship, to really digest what another person feels, needs, thinks about, and talks about. And I thought, well, how does that relate to, this audacity, this magic of thinking big? And as he goes on to talk about it, in our being generous in conversation and being graceful to others. And one of the major points that he talked about in being human as it relates to this magic of thinking big is that as we relate to other people, we can be not only generous in conversation, but we can exercise a tremendous amount of grace and understanding and patience and consideration as it relates to people around us. And so I started to think about that and how easy it is for us to objectify other people. And not just like a man objectifies, a woman that he sees on the screen, or how people are objectified based on what they drive or where they live and that sort of thing. But it allows us to objectify people in a way that we can classify them, we can put them in this box of words that automatically says and determines who and what they are. And we take their humanity out of it. We take their, and not just their humanity, their individual humanity. A person with, likes and passions and loves and children, and who was a baby once. And, we like to, this time of year, people joke and they talk about little baby Jesus, meek and mild, because they like to think of Jesus as the baby wrapped in swaddling clothing and innocent and pure in the manger and the cows and all of these things. And they don't want to think about the guy probably who braided a whip, and went into the temple and started flipping tables over and driving people out. This guy was, he was a carpenter, so he was probably nice with his hands. And as he drove other grown men out of work. So we don't think about the full humanity of the people that we interact with on a day-to-day basis. There would probably be less of this road rage. There'd probably be so much less of the stress and fever and high blood pressure and things that we produce in life, because we forget that the people around us are genuine, unique humans who have loves and passions and hurts and disappointments and pains and dreams and all of these things that make us the best at what we can and should be. And if we're going to experience the magic of thinking big, we have to realize that the people around us, the people that we encounter, the conversations that we have, every single one of them, every person you meet, every person you encounter, there is gold in their life. There's magic in their conversation. There is an eternity of wealth and experience that they have in their life. And if we don't embrace their full humanity, and in the Science of Being Great, he talks about, think of yourself as a God, and every person that you encounter, you are God encountering other gods. So stop thinking of people as Republicans or Democrats or Northerners or Southerners or foreigners or whatever it is, and encounter every person as this master of a beautiful universe of their individuality. And when you do that, then you have the ability to receive. You get the magic of their humanity, the magic of their individual greatness and their individual immortality. You get to receive that, a part and a portion of that, and the benefit of the greatness that's in them, even if they don't see it themselves. And I thought that was a brilliant takeaway. So that was one of the first things. Be more human. So when it comes to our thinking, how are we thinking about the people around us? And how are we thinking about ourselves? That's the second one. It's very clear that some people think too highly or think too much about themselves. I had, someone say to me one time, just very clearly, it was, a situation where lots of things were going on, and I started taking some of it personally, and feeling like, was that one hit wonder guy back in the 80s? I always feel like somebody's watching me. It's just kind of, personal conspiracy theory going on in my life. And I had a wise person say to me, people don't think about you as much as you think people think about you. You think people think about you a lot more than people think about you. And there may be a little bit of arrogance tied to that, because you're not other people's favorite subject. You know what is other people's favorite subject? Themselves. They reach a certain point and their grandkids, right? So as I started to think, and embrace that and take that little verbal shellacking from a wise individual that was helping me become a better person. And realizing, yeah, other people aren't thinking about me as much, but more importantly, what am I thinking about me? And am I thinking the right way about myself? Because if I am, then it's so much harder. And at this point in my life, it's so much harder for someone to offend me or hurt my feelings. Because, if they think something different than I think or know about myself, I don't really have to care that much. If it conflicts not only with who I know or believe that I am, but also the greatness that I expect out of my own life. And one of the things that makes it really easy not to think too highly about myself and not to get too offended is I get to look back in history. I get to look back over the last 10, 15 years of my life. And I was just having one of these conversations recently. And it's comical. It's comical to look back and see how right I was about so many things. And by right, I mean definitively right. And everybody else who thought differently, even to the slightest degree, was absolutely wrong and bordering on imbecilic, right? They were bordering on being idiots if they disagreed with me in certain areas because I was so emphatically right. And that's kind of how I was approaching life. And now I look back and I get to see, man, I get excited when I see how wrong I was in my ways of thinking, how wrong I was. And I don't get excited because I was wrong. I get excited because I've grown. I get excited because I don't have to pretend to know things to the nth degree when I'm really, absolutely, constantly still learning about almost everything and peeling back the layers and the onions of things to understand things and to know things in a better way. And so I don't have to be tied to and tie my identity to the fact that I'm the person that knows this. Um, I wanted my identity to be the person who's learning, the person who's growing, the person who's ever evolving into the greatness that I was destined for. And so that's the second thing. First thing, how do we think about other people? And this is the magic of thinking great, because that's going to allow us to get the best out of them. There's a proverb in the Bible says, if you receive a prophet in the name of a prophet, you receive the prophet's reward. And what that really means is the way that you think about other people determines how much you can actually receive from them. And then if you think about yourself in the right way and keep things in the right perspective with yourself, then it's so much harder to get offended and your mind stays clear so that you can continue to grow and you can continue to progress. And then the last thing, which is really, from my perspective of where I am now and what I want the rest of my life to be about and what I believe you do too. Thank you, Ms. Erickson, Kathy, I think. But the other thing that I want you to, Kathy, hey, is to think great, massive, huge thoughts. And that's where I think we are epidemically struggling as a society, is how many people are thinking these massive world-changing thoughts. And you think about, the individuals who did, and then there's some names that immediately pop up. We just humanity just lost Tony Hsieh, the founder of Zappos, who created this massive company and had such a tremendous humanitarian impact and approach to doing great things. 38 years old. I think he sold this company for $327 million or something like that. And then when they wanted him to stay on as CEO, he said, I'll do it under one condition: you don't pay me a salary. So this was a person that had great thoughts and created a great impact. It impacted outside of the gambling and entertainment, and impacted the part of Las Vegas that really needed an economic impact the most by bringing jobs and opportunity into that city in a different way than how most people were making their living. And so we need more people who think these great epic thoughts. And that's where the hard work of thinking really is. This was my third biggest takeaway from this book, The Magic of Thinking Big, is how many people not just have this epic idea. I can't tell you how many people have told me over the course of my time working with entrepreneurs, and even outside of that, how many people have said, years ago I had this idea of doing this, and this. And I never did anything. And then the next thing you know, someone starts a company and they start doing this. And now they're making $1 bajillion off that idea that I had a long time ago. We don't have a shortage of people who have brilliant or great ideas. We do have a deficit of people who take great thoughts and then think and act continually. Think and act, think and act, think and act. And there's a whole bunch of books, 5-second rule, a whole bunch of things that you can add to your intellectual tool chest that will help you to be able to say, when I have great thoughts, when I have inspiration, how do I put that into action? How do I generate enough human force and thought to take these ideas and act on them and push them out into life and make them a reality? How do I start that business and build it to have the impact that I want? How do I write this book? How do I do these other things that are part of my individual epic greatness that I'm destined to have, instead of just living a life of mediocrity and woulda, coulda, shouldas, and I could have been a contender and all of these other things, and settling for this life of being somehow just existing and having some sense of security in life. And so if we're gonna think epic thoughts, we can't just think epic thoughts one time. We have to think those thoughts. There's the birthday girl. Hey, Dr. Bordelon. If we have to think those epic thoughts, and then we have to have sustained thought and action. That's what produces the greatness. That's what somehow, as Candace just said, that's what creates the masterpiece, is looking at that canvas and then seeing what could be. Looking at that rock and seeing the sculpture inside. And as somebody, I don't remember who it was, said, my job is to get rid of all the unnecessary pieces in the rock so that the sculpture that was already there can now be seen. But it takes that sustained, epic, great thinking to actually see those things happen. And that, my friends, is the hardest work that we'll ever do. Choosing to be great thinkers, choosing to do it every single day, to take the time to generate the brain force and the brain power of this amazing tool that we've been given. Because I honestly believe that we were all created to have a great world-changing impact. None of us were, in the military, we talk about cannon fodder. And those were the people who, when it was time to go into battle, those may have been the people that didn't have high status in life and weren't great high trained soldiers or highly valued. And they were the people that were put up front to basically just absorb incoming artillery so that after they absorb it, then the next wave can come in and do the work. In life, I don't believe any of us were created to be cannon fodder. I don't believe any of us were born and went through this miracle of coming into life and everything it takes for that to happen, to be mediocre. But we've accepted that. We've accepted that as a way of life, and it starts with how we think. So my challenge to you, if you want to check out this book, The Magic of Thinking Big, or if you just want to put your amazing magic to work by thinking big, is do it with a sustained effort. Set aside time every day, and maybe even several times a day, just to exercise the beauty and the magic of your brain, to think epic thoughts and to do epic things, and then go to work. Put the action in place. Do what you need to do to make those thoughts a reality in your life, in your home, in your career, your job, wherever you are, wherever you have the opportunity to make an impact. Because I guarantee you what the world needs today is not more average people, it's more Tony Shades. It's more people who are willing to think how can things be done better in such an amazing way that when I leave here, I'm sure he wasn't planning to die in a house fire at 38, but he left his mark. He made his difference. And many lives have been already impacted and will be impacted for generations to come because of the work that he's done. And I believe that's every one of us. And that's how we live our best life. In 2020, moving into 2021. Remember, the obstacle is the way. There are no challenges that we can't think beyond and do great things. My name is Urshel. This is Urshel Speaks. You don't have any choice now. Go out and make it the best day that you ever had. Wake up tomorrow and do the exact same thing. We'll talk to you soon.